بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين على أمور الدنيا والدين وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. After praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and sending peace and salutations upon the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, we continue our lesson inshaAllah on the book, the kitab Safinatun Naja by Salim ibn Abdullah ibn Sa'ad ibn Abdullah ibn Sumayr al-Hadrami al-Shafi'i. InshaAllah we'll do a quick recap just before Salah on everything we've done so far, and then we'll come back after Salah for our new dars inshaAllah. So we began with the muqaddimah, the introduction of the Shaykh, and after that we went into the section of Aqidah where we spoke about the arkan of Islam, the arkan of Iman, and the ma'na of kalimat al-Tawheed. Then we went on to the beginning of the book of puberty, the beginning of the book of Tahara, where we started with our first chapter, Alamat al-Bulugh, which were the signs of puberty. Then the shurut ijza' al-hajri fil istinja', the conditions to use a stone for istinja' to clean yourself. Then the faraid of wudu, the compulsory acts of wudu, which we mentioned there were 6. We then moved on to the ahkam related to water, the rulings pertaining to water. And then we went on to what makes ghusl wajib and its pillars, which we mentioned there were 2. Then we went on to the conditions of wudu, and we mentioned 10, 8 of them being for everyone and 2 of them being for the person that is the da'im al-hadath, the one that is in constant state of impurity. And then last lesson we went through the breakers of wudu, and we mentioned there were 4. Who can remind me of one of the 4 breakers of wudu? Someone that was here last lesson here.
Anything that leaves the private part.
So anything that leaves the front or back private part, rihun or ghayruh, like wind or other than it, except, do you remember? There was an exception. Except semen. The next one?
Skin to skin contact
with
a woman.
Good. So we said any skin to skin contact between man and woman that have reached hadd al-shahwa and that are not mahram to each other. And we said that the mahram is how many? How many people are considered to be your mahram? 18. And we split them into how many categories? 3. Which were they? Through blood, number 1, hey?
Breastfeeding.
Through breastfeeding and marriage. Those through blood were how many? 7. And what were they? Number 1? Your mother. So this is for a man. So who's as a man, who's my mahram? There's 7 people.
Auntie from your mom's side and dad's side.
So paternal auntie, maternal auntie, your mother we said. What else? Your daughter, your niece from both your brother and your sister, and your sister. Good. And those 7 are the same for breastfeeding. And then through marriage we mentioned how many? 4. Which were they?
Daughter-in-law.
Yeah.
Dad's wife.
Daughter-in-law, your dad's wife, so your mother-in-law.
Stepdaughter.
Sorry, not your mother-in-law, that's your stepmother. Yes. Then your stepdaughter, and then your mother-in-law as well. So those 4. So your mother-in-law, your daughter-in-law, your stepmother, and your stepdaughter. These people are mahram to you. And then we mentioned 2 other things that break your wudu. What were they? So we mentioned skin-to-skin contact between man and woman. We mentioned anything leaving the private parts. There's 2 more. To lose consciousness by sleep or other than it, except the sleep where your backside is firmly upon the floor. And then the last one, the 4th one,
Can you touch the front or back of the private part?
So yeah, to touch the front or back, front or back private part with the palms of your hands or the underside of your fingers, whether that's your own or another human. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And then we went through at the end of the lesson the things that are haram for the person that doesn't have wudu, the person that is junub, meaning the state of major sexual impurity, and the woman that is on her period. How many things did we mention that were haram upon the person that doesn't have wudu? 4 things. Which were they? Number 1, salah. Yeah, to touch the mushaf. What else?
Stay in the masjid.
So for the person that doesn't have wudu. So if you break your wudu, are you allowed to stay in the masjid?
Oh, yeah.
You're allowed to. So just if you don't have your wudu, you're not allowed to pray. You're not allowed to do tawaf. You're not allowed to touch the mushaf and carry it as well. You're not allowed to carry the mushaf as well. And then for the person that's in major sexual impurity, 6 things are haram upon them. The 4 that we mentioned and 2 more. One we mentioned just now, that's staying in the masjid. And the other one was to recite the Quran. Good. And then for the person that is in, the woman that's on her period, or she's going through nifas, which is post-needful bleeding, there are 10 things that are haram upon her. 10 things that are haram upon her. And we mentioned, we'll stop on this point and we'll come back after salah. Amongst the 6 that we already mentioned, there's 4 extra things. Who remembers what they were? So she's not allowed to pray, she's not allowed to do tawaf, she's not allowed to touch the mushaf, she's not allowed to carry it, she's not allowed to stay in the masjid, she's not allowed to recite Quran. 4 more things. Nobody. Is she allowed to fast? If she's on her period, is she allowed to fast? No, so that's 1. She's not allowed to get divorced. She's not allowed to pass through a masjid if she fears that she will make the masjid dirty. And you can't enjoy what's between the navel and knees when the woman is on her period. Wallahu a'lam. So now the main focus, inshallah, of this lesson will be around the rulings pertaining to tayammum. Inshallah. So the first section, faslun fi asbab tayammum. This section, tayammum itself, let's go back. In our first lesson, when we first started, we mentioned that tahara, purity, has 4 wasail, 4 means, and 4 maqasid. We said, who can remind us what the 4 wasail were? The 4 means of tahara. I'll give you the first one, and hopefully inshallah that jogs your memory on what the other 3 were. The first one was water. So what were the other wasail of tahara? Water, the first one. So what do you use for tayammum? Dust or dirt, yeah, or soil. And then what else? It was a long time ago. Okay, no problem. We said that the 4 wasail were, the 4 means, meaning the things you use to do tahara, are water, number 1. Number 2, turab. So that is used for what? What is turab meaning? Dirt used for tayammum. Anything else? MashaAllah. To remove major impurity on the 7th wipe. So for example, you have the saliva of a dog on you, you wash it, and on the 7th wash you used turab as well. And then what else? Number 3, hajr al-istinja. We went through the stone or anything like it, whether that's tissue, to clean yourself. And the 4th one, which we haven't studied yet, dibagh, meaning to chemically clean the skin of a dead animal. So those were the 4 wasail. And now we had the 4 maqasid, the 4 like intended actions of tahara. And we said the first one was wudu, which we went through its rulings. We went through the things that break it, its pillars and its conditions. We've done those. We've done ghusl as well. We've done the things that cause ghusl to be wajib, and we've done also its pillars. Number 3 is what we're going to do today, tayammum. So tayammum, just so that you know what part of tahara we're at and what we've got left. Number 3 is tayammum, and that's what we're going to focus on today. What are the reasons for someone to do tayammum? What breaks their tayammum? What are the pillars? And what are the conditions? And then number 4 was Safinatun Naja, and the removal of najasa, which we'll study if we have time, inshallah, today. If not, next week. So tayammum, the Shaykh, he says, أسباب التيمم ثلاثة. The reasons for tayammum are 3. What is tayammum? It's different to wudu and ghusl in that in itself it doesn't remove any impurity. In itself, it doesn't remove any impurity. What do we mean by that? We mentioned that impurities have how many types? 2 types. The physical impurity, meaning anything that can get in your clothes, stuff like blood, alcohol, urine, stool, all of that stuff. Right? That's one type. That's the physical impurity. Then we have spiritual impurity. If by looking at someone, can you tell whether they have ghusl or not? No. Can you tell whether they have wudu or not? No. This is a spiritual impurity. And to remove spiritual impurity, we said you need to do one of 2 things. Either you need to do wudu or you need to do ghusl. Clear? Everyone got that? No? Yes? Cool. Then tayammum now, in itself, it doesn't remove any spiritual impurity. For example, I'm somewhere in a desert. I want to pray, but I don't have any water. I do tayammum because I didn't have wudu. Has it removed that impurity of me not having my wudu? No. It's just made that salah ibah. It means I'm allowed to pray that now. In itself, it doesn't remove anything, but it makes the salah permissible for you to pray. Clear? Yeah? That's why it's different to wudu and ghusl. Wudu and ghusl themselves, yes, they make salah permissible to pray, but they also remove that impurity. Okay? So we said that the asbab of tayammum are thalatha, 3. There are 3 reasons of tayammum. When do you do tayammum? And this is the section that is going to talk about the 3 situations where you're allowed to do tayammum. Tayammum can be in the place of wudu or ghusl. So if I need to do ghusl and I don't have water, and I don't have access to water, which is one of the reasons of tayammum, which we'll go into, then I do tayammum. Same for wudu. So it's the same, and the way you actually do the tayammum is the same, whether it's for wudu or for ghusl is the same. Clear? So the first reason is faqdul ma, is the absence of water, to not have water. And this can be of 2 types. Either that you actually don't have water. You're in a desert, you don't have water. You don't have access to any water. That's one. Or number 2 is that there's water, but you're not able to use it for some reason. Maybe the water is impure. The only water that is impure. So that would be, yes, there's water, but I'm not able to use it for wudu. That's the first reason. وَالْمَرَضُ. And the second reason for someone to do tayammum is, say there is water. I have water that's pure and I can use it for wudu. But I'm sick. I'm sick, and what does that mean? It can mean one of 3 things. That the water itself that I'm about to use for wudu, it will cause an illness. It will cause me to have an illness. Okay? That's one reason. Or number 2, it can cause that illness that I already have to get worse by using that water. Say for example, I have a cut And if I use water that's not pure, not clean, or any water, if I use any water and mix it, I can cause an infection. That infection means that I'm allowed to do tayammum now. If using that water makes the illness that I already have worse. Okay? Or number 3, if using that water will delay my recovery. Another example of making the water causing an illness is, for example, you're somewhere very, very cold and the only water you have is cold water. Now, if I was to do wudu, I would get sick. So what I do tayammum. Clear, yeah? So let's go back. There's 2 reasons we've studied so far. That the absence of water, and that has 2 subcategories. Either there's actually no water, or there's water but I can't use it. That's one reason. Then we have this reason of sickness. We have this reason of sickness which has 3 subcategories. Either the water itself would cause the sickness, or it causes the sickness to get worse, or it delays the recovery. And how many reasons did we say there were for someone to do tayammum? Altogether, there was 3. So how many have we done so far? 2. Okay? The third one, وَالِاحْتِيَاجُ إِلَيْهِ لِعَطْشِ حَيَوَانٍ مُحْتَرَمٍ. And the third reason is for you to have a need for this water that you have. You have a certain amount of water, and you need that water to quench the thirst, meaning the person, if you don't give them this, they will die, of a respected animal. I'll repeat. You have water. I'm not sick and I have water. Okay? So I don't meet the first 2 reasons to do tayammum. Okay? I'm not sick and I have water. But I'm traveling with someone. Okay? This person, if I don't give them water to drink, they will die. Okay? In that case, I'm allowed to do tayammum. If that person that I'm traveling with is a respected animal or a respected person. You might think now, who's respected, who's not? It's not based on if you respect them or not. It's not based on that. It's based on if they are outside of the 6 that we're about to mention. So there's 6 types of people or animals that if you're traveling with them and they're about to die and you have water, you are not allowed to do tayammum. You have to do wudu, and you don't feed them. You let them die. Clear? Who are the 6? وغير محترم ستة. The first one, subhanallah, is the one that leaves off prayer, tariqus salah. Is the one that leaves off prayer. So this person, after telling them to pray, if they still don't pray, then you're not allowed to do tayammum if they're traveling with you. You use that water that you have to do wudu. Clear, yeah? Shall I repeat it? One more time, yeah? There's a person that refuses to pray. They refuse to pray. That person, say you're traveling with them. You have water, and it's enough for you to do wudu, or for you to feed them. And if they don't drink this water, they will die. Yeah? If that person is someone that doesn't pray, you don't feed them, you do wudu. And that's obviously after you've told them to pray, and if they still refuse, then clear. Cool. That's the first one. And I want you to think, all of these people are grouped together. All these people that we're about to mention are grouped together. Okay? So just think about why they're grouped together and how the Sharia, they consider all these people the same. Okay? Maybe I'll leave that as homework. The second person was Zani al-Muhsan, sorry. Was Zani al-Muhsan. This is someone that is committed adultery, so had intercourse outside of marriage. That is a Zani. Al-Muhsan is someone that has consummated a correct marriage before. And this can be of 2 types. Either, number 1, that they're in a marriage that they've already consummated, they're currently in that marriage and they now have intercourse outside of that marriage whilst they're in that marriage. That's one. Or they were married before. They were married before, and that marriage that they were married before, they've consummated, and now they're divorced, but now outside of a new marriage, they've had sexual relations. So that person takes the same ruling. If they're with you, you don't give them the water, you do tayammum. You do wudu, sorry. You can't do tayammum. Clear, yeah? The third one, وَالْمُرْتَدُّ, the apostate, someone that has left the religion of al-Islam. That was clear, yeah? Someone that was a Muslim and has left the religion of al-Islam. So that's how many now? 1, 2, 3. Number 4, وَالْكَافِرُ الْحَرْبِيُّ, the kafir, the non-Muslim, al-harbi, the one that is waging war against you. So say you're at war and the kafir that's on the opposite side, if they're with you and they're about to die, you do wudu and you don't do tayammum. So those are the humans. Then we have 2 animals, that if they're with you, you don't feed the animal and you let them die and you do wudu with the water that you have. And those 2 animals are وَالْكَلْبُ الْعَقُورِ, the dog that kills, the one that is a wild dog, okay? The dog that kills. وَالْخِنْزِيرُ, and the pig. So those 2 animals, you would not give them water, you would do wudu instead of doing tayammum. Clear? So those are the 3 reasons of why someone would do tayammum. Either they don't have water, or they're not allowed, they can't use it, or they're sick, or that they're saving that water for a respected animal. What now you know what is considered a respected animal? Anyone outside of the 6 we mentioned. If you're with anyone else, you give them the water, you're allowed to do tayammum. Clear? Inshallah. Then we move on to the shurut of tayammum, the conditions of tayammum. And the conditions of wudu were how many? The conditions of wudu were how many? Anyone? Without looking. Huh? No. No. Close. It's 10. It's 10. 8 of them for everyone. 2 for the one that is in constant state of impurity. Huh? And the conditions of tayammum are also 10. Inshallah, next week I'm going to test everyone. I'm going to test everyone on the numbers for each of the sections. So you should know, for example, if I say how many signs of puberty are there, you should know. If I ask you for the pillars of wudu, you should know. And how many they are. How many reasons are there for ghusl, you should know. The conditions of wudu, you should know. So inshallah, I'm going to test it next week, so prepare inshallah. So the conditions are 10. The first one, أن يكون, the Shaykh says, شروط التيمم 10. أن يكون بتراب, for it to be with dust. For it to be with dust. Obviously you can't do tayammum with water, it should be with dust. Okay? وأن يكون التراب طاهرا, and for the turab, the dust that you're going to use, for it to be pure. You can't have any najasa in it. That dust you're using, it has to be pure. Okay, so those are the first 2 conditions. وَأَلَّا يَكُونَ مُسْتَعْمَلًا, and for it not to be used. What does it mean to be used? For, say for example, I'm with someone and we're both doing tayammum. He does tayammum first. I can't do tayammum with that same dust that he used. Because now it's been used. It's already been used. You do it with new dust. Clear? So for it not to be tayammum, for it not to be with dust that has been already used. So that's number 3. وَأَلَّا يُخَالِطَهُ دَقِيقٌ وَنَحْوُهُ. And for it not to be mixed. And what do we mean for it not to be mixed? Meaning obviously the dust. For the dust not to be mixed with anything like flour that you use for cooking or baking or anything like it. For it not to be mixed with that. So for it to just be dust. Okay? So those first, how many conditions? 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Those first 4 are talking about what? The dust itself. Those first 4. The reason why we split stuff up like this is so it becomes easier to memorize and learn and take in later. So later when you're asked questions about this, you will know. You will know. So those first 4 are related to the dust. The next one is for the person. The next one is for the person. The next few are for the person. وَأَنْ يَقْصِدَهُ. And for them to intend it. What does he mean by intend it? Meaning, I can't just fall on the floor and have dust on my hands and say, I might as well do tayammum. No. You have to intend whilst you're striking the floor to do that tayammum. When you're putting that dust on your hands, for you to intend to do tayammum. Okay, clear? That's number 5. وَأَنْ يَمْسَحَ وَجْهَهُ وَيَدَيْهِ بِضَرْبَتَيْنِ. And to wipe the face and the arms, the hands, with 2 strikes. With 2 strikes. So one strike for the face and 1 strike for the hands. I'm going to see later that this includes the up until the elbows. وَأَنْ يُزِيلَ النَّجَاسَةَ أَوَّلًا. And for the person, again for the person, to remove any najasa that's on them first. Is that najasa on the whole body? No. Why? It's najasa where you're about to wipe. So if you've got najasa on your face or najasa on your arms, remove that first and then do tayammum. Clear? Yeah? Okay, these next 3, so those, okay, the conditions of tayammum were 10. The first 4 were conditions to do with the dust itself. The next 2 that we just mentioned, what is it? 1, 2, 3 we mentioned. We'll say the first 2. So for you to intend it and for you to do 2 strikes, 1 for your face, 1 for your arms. Those 2 are in relation to the person. And the next one, the rest of them are all to do with the salah that he's about to pray. The salah that he's about to pray. Why do we say this? You're going to see that these conditions are to do with salah. Why? Because we said that tayammum is something that will make salah mubah for you. You're allowed to pray the salah because of it. It doesn't remove any najasa itself, impurity itself, not najasa, sorry. Okay, it doesn't remove any impurity itself. So we say that these extra conditions are so that as soon as you do this tayammum, you're going to pray anyway. That's the reason you're doing the tayammum, right? Because you want to pray. So we say that these conditions are also conditions of tayammum. And from the first one we already mentioned, to remove the najasa first. To remove the najasa on the face or the arms first. And then number 2, وَأَنْ يَجْتَهِدَ فِي الْقِبْلَةِ قَبْلَهُ. And for you to make ijtihad, make like educated guess on where the qibla is. You can imagine if you're in a desert and there's no water and you're about to do tayammum, you know, from what you know, try to find out where the qibla is first before you do the tayammum. Clear? وأن يكون التيمم بعد دخول الوقت. For the tayammum to happen after the entering of the time. What does it mean? After that the time of that salah enters. Say for example, I'm in a desert, I want to pray dhuhr. I can't make tayammum for dhuhr before the time of dhuhr enters. And we're going to come to, inshallah, when we look at the section of salah, what the time of dhuhr is, when does it start, when does it end, when's the last time you can pray, when are the times that it's prohibited to pray certain prayers, all of that, we're going to come to that. But for now, for the time of dhuhr, say for example, dhuhr ends says at 12 o'clock, you can't pray before 12 you can't do tayammum for that dhuhr before 12 o'clock. Clear, yeah? You have to wait for 12 o'clock, wait for the dhuhr to come in, and then do the tayammum. And then the last one, the 10th one, وَيَتَيَمَّمَ لِكُلِّ فَرْضٍ. And for you to do tayammum for every fard. For every fard salah, you do a new tayammum. For dhuhr, you do a tayammum. If you're still in the same situation, you do another tayammum for asr. Even though you didn't come with any of its breakers. Okay, nearly done inshallah. So those 10, inshallah, we split it into how many categories? 3 categories. The first one to do with the dust itself, the second one to do with the person, and the third one to do with things related to the salah. For the salah to come in, to do a new tayammum for every fard salah, all of this stuff, okay? Now, faslun fi fara'id tayammumi, the section that talks about the compulsory acts of tayammum, and they're 5. The first one is naqlu turab, for you to transfer the turab. Transfer the turab from, obviously, the floor, or wherever you're getting it from, to your hands. So to strike the ground, okay? Then obviously you have the niyyah, and have the intention to do tayammum whilst you're doing that. Okay, because we said the niyyah is to intend the action tied with its, to intend something tied with its actual action. Okay, so the first one is naqlu turab, the second an-niyyah, the third one is to mashu al-wajh, to wipe the face, And it's not a wash, okay, so it's a wipe. So you would wipe the face from the borders that we've already mentioned when we were looking at wudu. وَمَسْحُ الْيَدَيْنِ إِلَى الْمِرْفَقَيْنِ, and to wipe the arms, the hands include up until and including the elbows. So that wipe would look like you strike the floor and you wipe. So for example, you do your right hand first, right? So you wipe the back of the right hand and then everything all around up until the elbows. And then because there's still dirt on this hand, you will do the same thing for the whole of the left. Clear? And that is how you do tayammum. وَالْخَامِسُ التَّرْتِيبُ بَيْنَ الْمَسْحَتَيْنِ, and to have to do in sequence between the 2 wipes. So you don't do your arms before your face. You do the face first, then the arms. And those are the 5 fara'id of tayammum. What were the compulsory acts of wudu? How many were there? No, that was the conditions. The compulsory acts of wudu. Close. 6. So wudu is 6. Here it's 5. So inshallah, memorize that. Yeah? And then the last section we'll do today, the things that break your tayammum. Tayammum is أضعف من الوضوء. Is weaker than wudu. We said it doesn't remove any impurity itself. So it's weaker than wudu. So the things that break it are more. The things that break it are more. So the Shaykh, he mentions مبتلات التيمم ثلاثة. The things that break your tayammum are 3. But I said it's more. I said that the things that break your tayammum are more than the things that break your wudu. How many things broke your wudu that we'd mention? Huh? How many? Anyone?
How many things break wudu?
Yeah.
5?
No. No.
4.
4 things break your wudu, but we said 3 things break your tayammum. But we said tayammum is weaker, so more things break it. Inshallah, we'll see why we said that. The first thing that breaks your tayammum, ما أبطل الوضوء. What breaks your wudu? So all those 4 things also break your tayammum. If you pass wind, if you sleep, if you touch your private parts, if you touch a woman that's not your mahram, all of these things, they break your tayammum as well. So right now, this is the first of the 3, but it's actually 4 things. We'll come to questions inshallah. The next one is wariddah, and for someone to leave the religion. For someone to leave the religion. So what do we understand from that? If someone leaves the religion and comes back, do they still have wudu? Yeah. But if they done tayammum, do they still have tayammum? No. Why? Because tayammum is weaker. Okay. And this one, the last one of the three, وَتَوَهُّمُ الْمَاءِ إِن تَيَمَّمَ لِفَقْدِهِ, and to think that you found water on the condition that the reason you done the tayammum was because you didn't have water. We said that there was 3 reasons you could do tayammum, or 2, or 1. What was it? How many? 3. Yeah. The 3 reasons, one of them is that you don't have water. If that's the reason you're doing tayammum and it wasn't the other 2, you're not sick and you're not saving it for a respected animal. If that's the reason you're doing tayammum, and then now you've thought you found water, maybe you saw a car go past and you think that they have water, it's enough for you to believe that they have water for that tayammum to break. If now you believe that a car has stopped and they might have water, you go and you see that they don't have water, has your tayammum broken? Yes, of course. Because it's enough for you to just think it. That thought of you having, them having water, or you see somewhere far that you see a well, but when you go there it's empty. For example, all of these things, it's enough for you to believe that there's water there and you can do wudu, that tayammum is broken. Clear? So those things are the 3 things that break your tayammum. Really it's 4 plus 1 plus 1, 6. Because it's the 4 things that break wudu, plus the one of riddah, the leaving of the religion, and to believe that you have found water if you have done tayammum because you didn't have water. Okay? Abdul, you had a question? Abdul, you had a question? SubhanAllah. What's tayammum? Tayammum is when you can't do wudu or you can't do ghusl, you use dirt or dust to be able to pray. Yeah.
I think I'm missing one of the conditions.
Which ones do you have?
I have all of the two conditions.
Hey.
That's one. All of those conditions.
No. The conditions. The conditions. How many do you have?
3.
No, that's the most recent chapter we've done. Yeah. Those are the things that break your tayammum, not your conditions. It's the things that if you do any one of these, it breaks the tayammum. Clear? So it's not conditions.
It's the conditions that break
I wouldn't call it conditions. So it's just things that break your tayammum. Yeah? And there are 3. So the first one is anything that breaks your wudu. Number 2 is to leave the religion. Number 3 is to believe that there's water if you've done tayammum because you didn't have water.
And is that just 3?
Those 3, yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? Inshallah, next week is the last week of the section of Tahara. We'll finish Tahara next week. After that, there will be an exam. Inshallah, of all of Tahara. On all of Tahara. And inshallah, I'll send it out and we will receive results the following lesson. So it's optional, you don't have to sit it, but it's to test your knowledge on what you have taken so far. If there's no questions, we'll stop there inshallah. Subhanakallahumma bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.